What is up, Karma Nation? Welcome here to our very first live stream for the March Madness, I guess. We are March 1st. Everyone is excited. As you see, he is grinning ear to ear. This is the first time you guys have actually seen the face, I want to call it the face, of Dom, who is one of our CBB expert handicappers. If you've subscribed to any either our MVP or CBB Premium on the Bet Karma side of things, it's kind of 50-50 Bales. You already know Bales. He's on like 1,000 live streams a week. But this is the other half of the dynamic duo. We have Dom here, who is going to be breaking down the 7 soonest starting non-major tournaments. So there's, like 6 million different non-major conferences. We're not going to go through all those. Ain't nobody got time for that. We're just going to focus on the 7. So I'll just go through those real quick, do some housekeeping things, and then we'll get right into it. We do these live streams so you guys can actually ask questions live. So no matter if you're watching this right now on Twitch, Periscope, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, any of that jazz, ask the questions in the chat and we'll get to them one at a time. But these are the 7 we're going to go over for this stream because these are the ones that are starting this week, Tuesday, Wednesday. So we have the Big South, Atlantic Sun, Horizon, Patriot, Mountain West, Northeast, and Ohio Valley. So this is going to be betting focused. We are going to be having DFS on DraftKings and prop plays on Prize Picks. We have a very special combined cohesive package this year that includes every single thing possible all into one package. You don't have to jump around between brands of DFS Karma and Bet Karma, and that is the March Madness package, which you can get by going to dfskarma.com/shop, and you'll see it right there. March Madness. It is a one-time cost, covers from today or whenever you purchase it all the way through the championship game. And with that package, which you can go to the website and see the description, but I'll go through it right now because, I'm talking about it. We have Bales' expert brackets. So he's not just going to give you his favorite bracket. He's going to give you a high-risk bracket, a low-risk bracket, and his optimal one. Dom's going to also be giving you his favorite bracket as well. Actually, now that I talk about this, I just saw this today. So a funny thing is I'm so into the March Madness. I don't even know what the word is to follow that, but I'm so into March Madness that I actually do not delete the ESPN Tournament Challenge app. You only need it for 1 month out of the entire calendar year.
Gotta keep it year-round.
But I just looked and I go, it's still there. I just have to update it. But I updated it. I looked at the patch notes in the App Store, and they actually have an optimizer apparently built into this now, where it says if you pick. I haven't tested it, but just based on the patch note, I'm guessing you pick your favorite matchup. So if you think, out of all of the teams, there's only 7 teams you really think have a great chance. Apparently, I don't know if you can do this on the app or if you have to be on the desktop version, but you can click your favorite, 7 people. These guys definitely get advanced, but I don't know jack crap about anybody else. Apparently, there's some optimized feature now where you can click it and it'll just auto-populate the rest of the bracket for you. So if you don't watch basketball and you just want your team to win the championship, so let's say you have some mid-major, you just make them win the championship and then just click optimize or whatever. You can either do it based on a random selection, and then there's also a an ESPN expert recommendation randomizing thing. So I'm gonna play around with that, see if that's if it's interesting at all. But I thought it was a funny concept that they're adding to that, because apparently there's so many people that don't watch basketball and they get invited to some office pool and there's I don't know what I'm doing. Well, there's something for you there as well, but you don't want to really randomize your bracket because chances are it's not going to fall in your favor. So that is why you sign up for the March Madness package. You get the expert ones. If you are in maybe a winner take all, then you probably want to be in the high risk bracket that Bales creates. If you're in something that just for fun, and you want to accumulate points, maybe you get points for every correct, first round selection, second round selection. That's kind of where you want to do the low risk bracket, and then there's the optimal one as well, which is Bales' overall favorite one. Now, you don't just get the expert brackets. Bales is also be writing expert articles. If you play on Prize Picks, which is if you live in a state, which is I think they're in 30 states right now that has Prize Picks eligibility. If you're in that, you need to download the app. They're going to have March Madness contests, prop picks I'll say all month long, but I guess all month and April long as well. And then, of course, Expert Bets, the team that has been killing it in 2020 in college basketball, which is down here in Bales. They are going to be also providing their bets as well, which is what we're going to cover here. And then the last bit before we get into the Atlantic Sun bracket is If you have been on dfskarma.com anytime in the last couple weeks, you've seen the head banner. It is still active, that promo for the next few days, and that is you are going to get $20 for free for just depositing 20 or more bucks. It's just a promo we have with our partners at DraftKings. All you have to do is click the banner and then just deposit 20 bucks, and they'll actually match that deposit in DraftKings credit. So all that aside, it is now time to get to the good stuff. So first things first, Dom, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself. Like I said, this is the first time people have seen you. Give a little spiel, if you will.
All right. Well, I'm Greg. I'm Bet Karma Dom, Dom Toretto, MSU on Twitter. I've been posting online about college basketball for years under Dom Toretto screen name. So me with Bales running the college basketball bets on Bet Karma. Been having a good, successful year. Both of us have. My November actually started out pretty rough. So the fact that I'm up double-digit units now is excellent. That means we're over 20 units on the year for 2020, killing it and peaking just at the right time. Today's March 1st, so it's officially March. March Madness starts. I'm stoked for conference tournaments. They start on Tuesday. Like Travis mentioned, Tuesday, Wednesday, first tournaments tip off. So yes, they're mid-majors, most of these, but a lot of money to be made. And we're going to talk about a few teams that you're going to be talking about. Everyone will be talking about in the NCAA tournaments because obviously the winner of each one of these 32 conference tournaments receives an automatic bid into the NCAA tournament. So a lot on the line for these small schools, and we're going to try to figure out a way to capitalize and make some money on these.
All right, now I forgot to mention the biggest part, which is the title of the stream, the $100,000 March Madness Challenge. I don't know how that slipped my mind, but if you remember last year, we had a 100,000 challenge for our brackets, our bracket group on ESPN. We're bringing it back this year. It's going to work exactly the same. So you can join our bracket pool by either searching. I don't actually know if there's a search for it because I think the title's just like a $100,000 bracket challenge, which I'm sure there's probably other companies that have that, maybe. But you can go to our Twitter account and you can click the link to join the ESPN group. Now, how it works, it's not the easiest thing. That's why it's a $100,000 grand prize. You actually have to have a lot of things happen in your favor to play for free and then to turn that into 100,000 bucks. And those things are you have to guess the final four correct, all four teams. You got to get both of the championship teams correct. You got to get the champion correct, and then just to make it a little more spicy, if you will, you actually have to get the final score correct too. And if you do all those things, which of course the probability is very low, you get 100,000 bucks.
Doesn't
So
sound that hard.
yeah, actually, so last year, so we used a prize insurance company for this contest, and last year we had a guy get all three of the final four, and then like as the fourth game was happening, they're like sweating bullets because prize insurance works where it's just with regular insurance, you're not paying the entire cost of the 100,000, you're just paying a small
Sure.
portion of that. And if it hits, then they pay out. So they're freaking out, like, oh crap, like this is supposed to be low probability, and this guy's 3 for 4, and that his fourth team didn't make it. So we're like, oh, all right, well, pushing it on to 2020. So everybody can enter this bracket challenge, but in order to win the 100,000 grand prize, if all of these things happen, you have to be an active subscriber to either of these four packages. You got to be an active subscriber to Bet Karma's College Basketball Premium, Bet Karma's MVP, DFS Karma's MVP, or DFS Karma's March Madness package, which gets you all this kit and caboodle we just explained earlier. If you have an active package on one of those four, and you hit all of those things, well, you're getting 100,000 bucks. Now, let's go ahead and hop into the Atlantic Sun Conference. I'm going to pull up the bracket here real quick. So this one starts Tuesday, and we have, I'm double checking the bracket here. So we got the 8 teams filled in. The championship game, which is of course when he said that when they punch their ticket, the final is going to be on Sunday. So actually a week from today, they're punching their ticket to the dance. I'm just going to run through the matchups real quick, and then you can touch on the teams individually if you want to, or the matchups there. So the first matchup, we have number 1 Liberty versus number 8. I call it the Injit, but it's NGAT North, or not North, New Jersey.
New Jersey.
Yeah, I don't know why I said North there. I'm an idiot. Stetson, number 4 versus 5, North Alabama. 3, Lipscomb versus 6. I don't know if they still go by Dunk City, but Flagler Gulf Coast. And then 2, North Florida, and 7, Jacksonville. So a lot of Florida in here, of course, because that's why it's called the Atlantic Sun. They usually pack in all of those sunny states teams there. Let's see. So I think they're all Yeah, so it's interesting that they all start the same exact time. The first one
So
was
no buys here, right? We're
yeah,
they're obviously seeding, so Liberty is the one seed, I believe, right?
yeah,
So they get the advantage in the matchup there, but no buys or double buys like you'll see in some of the major conferences,
right.
like where ACC and Big Ten, some of the teams, the tournament starts Wednesday, but they don't actually play until Friday because they have double buys going on. So this is the truest style of competition, right? I mean, everyone's playing; they all kick off on Tuesday. This is campus sites, I believe. The better seeds are going to be hosting these games. It's not a neutral site tournament, so there's another big advantage. Keep in mind. So Liberty is going to be they're going to be the favorite here. I don't think we have odds out yet on futures for these tournaments because we're doing this so early. Brackets just came out this morning, I believe.
Yeah.
So Liberty's going to be the favorite. I mean, ASUN, this is a league where typically the best team does win this tournament, even though I just said they don't get the advantage of buys. But over the years, we've seen the best team win this tournament. Last season, Lipscomb was really good, but so was Liberty. They were kind of the darling everyone had their finger on going into the tournament. Lipscomb actually didn't get their ticket punched because they didn't win the tournament, the ASUN tournament, that is. But Liberty did. They got the automatic bid. And if you recall hearing about Liberty last year, that's because they were, I believe it's a 5-12 matchup. They were a 12 seed and beat Mississippi State. So a big win for the program. So they made the second game. They lost the second round. I can't remember if it wasn't a blowout. I think maybe a 10-point game or so. But they did get a win in the NCAA tournament. So that was a really good team last year, Liberty. They're a really good team this year. They returned Scotty James, probably the best player in the conference, in my opinion. They have Caleb Holmesley, another senior who can light it up in their front court. They get a lot of points out of their front court in this conference. They have a senior point guard, Ortiz, who just doesn't turn it over, and ball control is huge in a tournament setting like this. They have a slow pace. They're really efficient in the paint, strong defense. This is a really solid team. They're going to be the favorite to win the ASUN tournament. They're going to be my bet to win the ASUN tournament. Hopefully, we'll give them around even money. I'm not sure if they're going to be juiced or not, but I think it's going to be worth it. So Liberty is my pick. There's a few other good teams here. North Florida, you mentioned. They're the most 3-point team, dependent team in the conference. They have 4 legitimate perimeter shooters, so they can really knock it down. They can be a dangerous team, but because they're so dependent on the three, I don't trust them to win a tournament setting because one cold night and they're out. Lipscomb is back. They actually just had a big win to finish up their season. They're not quite as good as they were last year when they were a potential Cinderella going into the ASUN conference. But Lipscomb's solid, but they have a lot of turnover. They lost their coach. They lost several seniors from a great season last year. They had a decent run in league play. They did just finish with a win over Liberty yesterday, or was it Friday or Saturday?
Yesterday, yeah.
Um, yep,
I
yesterday.
was, I
So,
was actually going to bring that up as you were talking about Liberty being your favorite. It says I was going to ask you if the one seed. Of course, it's on the road. It's the last game of the season for them. But
right.
is there anything with Liberty losing on the road to Lipscomb? And then I was going to also follow that up with: is there anything? Do you think there's any sleeper in this particular bracket? Because Jacksonville as a 7 seed just had a road win yesterday as well against Stetson.
Yeah, so interesting finish to the conference, I'll say. Who knows what happened with Liberty? Did they just kind of lose focus? Last game, it's on the road. I'm sure they're focused on the actual ASUN conference tournament. But that puts the pressure on Liberty. There were talks of them being a bubble team with a potential at-large bid. That's out the window now. I mean, they just lost Lipscomb, so they need to win this. So
Yeah.
I expect Liberty will refocus and go out and win this. There's always sleepers. You mentioned Jacksonville. I guess if I were to pick a sleeper, I'd say Stetson, even though they just lost again last game of the conference season. But Stetson was such a huge surprise. I mean, Stetson's not a good program. They were not supposed to be a good team. I'm sure they were projected to finish last or near last in this conference. They've been a really pleasant surprise after just an abysmal start to the season. Um, this is the first season for who is it? Donnie Jones is their coach. He's done well. I expect them maybe to get a win, but probably not win this whole tournament here. So my money will be on Liberty still.
Now, because we know the odds are, because it is relatively early and these brackets kind of just came out, is your odds are on Liberty, but what do you think, if you're just going to throw out a number there, what do you think the odds are going to be for Liberty to win this, just based on the entire conference?
Well, without them having the buys, it's a small conference. They don't have to win too many games here, but I expect them to be the favorite. I mean, if honestly they only got to win a couple games here, they're going to be a big favorite at first. I'd be happy with 2-1, 2.5-1. We'll see what the actual juice is, what the odds are, but I'm definitely interested even in Liberty as a short favorite here.
I think I just pulled up the conference standings. I had another question. I just realized of this entire
Yeah.
conference, there's only two teams that have a winning record. It's crazy. That's nuts. But you said like, one of the things you're saying about your sleeper pick going with Stetson. They actually have like they've lost four in a row, but that's kind of I guess what gives them that sleeper status of not being good
I
to
mean,
close the season.
exactly. They've won four in a row, then they lost four in a row. They had a couple 4-game winning stretches. So I mean, take sleeper lightly. They're a team that's just been surprising already this season. So I guess I wouldn't be shocked if they're surprising again in the tournament. But no, they're certainly not expected to win. And if we saw those odds, I'd be curious what it is because they would definitely be a long shot. So
Yeah, well, a question I have for you. So, the Atlantic Sun Conference has nine teams, and this bracket's got eight. So, do they always kick out the lowest one? Because Kennesaw State's got a 1-28 record with a 20-game losing streak. So, is that just something where they just kick out the lowest one every season, or for the thing, or is that just because they're so abysmal? They're like, we can't have you in this event.
that's funny because yeah, geez, that's 1-28 is just awful. They got one lucky win,
Yeah, I'm gonna pull
probably
up.
like
I need to know who they
in
who they
in
beat.
December. They yeah, actually Gardner Webb was actually not that bad. So that's actually surprising. They got Gardner Webb. They picked him off at home,
Yeah,
but that
yeah,
was in early December. They were probably on exam break. A lot of crazy stuff happens on when these teams go into their Christmas break and holiday break in December. So that's funny. I don't know if Kennesaw State is ineligible. We definitely have in some of these other mid-major conferences teams that are ineligible for the tournament,
yeah.
or actually, I'm not sure if they're ineligible or if they're just dead last and going 0-16. Why should they even play in the tournament anyways?
Right.
But
Yeah, I
I'm
don't
not
think it is.
concerned
I
about
think it
Kennesaw
has to be
State.
some. It has to be some blah, blah, blah. Ineligibility is the word I was trying to spit out because it can't. I don't. It's insane to have a 9-team conference with an 8-team bracket. Like I don't know.
Right.
That's crazy. So let's go ahead and move things on here to the Big South. This
Okay.
is one of those brackets that do have the buys with the top. I'm gonna bring this up here. Yeah, the top four teams. No, actually, that is incorrect. The top three teams get a bye because 4 and 5 play just a day after the first round. So top three teams get a bye. The first matchups are Tuesday as well, and so on Tuesday we're going to see 7-10, 6-11, and 8-9. So you mentioned Gardner Webb, and this is Gardner Webb's conference here. They are the third overall seed.
Yep.
I guess I'll just start things off with who is your overall favorite here, and then you can go ahead and break the rest of the conference down for us.
So the top three teams get a bye. You mentioned that's Winthrop, Radford, and Gardner Webb. So those are obviously going to be your three favorites there. It will be interesting. I mean, Radford was kind of in the driver's seat here. It'll be interesting if they're going to be the favorite for this. This is definitely a down year for the conference, though, compared to in years in recent past. There's been a lot of close games. Each team has some glaring weaknesses here. But this is an interesting conference, Big South, where oftentimes the regular season champ does not actually win the conference tournament. It's happened a lot in the past 10 years. So if Radford's the favorite, they're really good in the paint and they're efficient. They can't hit free throws. And especially in a tournament setting, I don't like a team that can't hit free throws. They run a really slow offense as well as slow pace. So there's some risk there too if they aren't getting their points. And I mean, even if they have a lead late in the game and they have to go to the free throw line and can't hold it because they can't hit free throws, I'm not going to lay my money on Radford, even if they are the favorite. With the regular season champ often not winning the tournament here, I wouldn't put too much stake into Radford or Winthrop. We just mentioned Gardner Webb, who had a awful loss in December to just one of the worst teams in the country. They've been pretty good. They've been pretty impressive. I've bet them several times throughout the season. Um, my memory serves. I made a little bit of money off Gardner Webb. They were last year's champ. They have a senior point guard. He's a distributor, Turner. They have a few sharpshooters on the outside, Cornwall and Johnson. They're shooting 40% plus from deep. They split with Winthrop. They had a triple overtime loss on the road at Winthrop. They give up a lot of rebounds. They give up a lot of offensive rebounds. So again, I mentioned they all have their weaknesses. That's a glaring weakness for Gardner Webb. But again, if we're getting some plus money odds here, I'm interested in Gardner Webb as one of the probably the third favorites in terms of betting odds for this tournament. I would be very interested in putting a future on Gardner Webb. Radford and Winthrop are going to be good. I mentioned Radford. Winthrop's kind of like the opposite of Radford. Winthrop plays fast. They also have some splits with some of the top teams in the conference. They actually had a road split with Radford. Both teams won on the road. Winthrop's the best rebounding team, which, I mean, a lot of times in these smaller conferences, just getting down to the fundamentals, that's what's going to win it. But like Radford, Winthrop is also a very poor free throw shooting team. I'm not going to put my money on poor free throw shooting teams in conference tournaments because it's one and done. So my money here is going to be on Gardner Webb. I'll take a bit of the long shot here in this tournament, see if we can make some money. The other teams, I mean, Hampton, Longwood, Asheville, they just haven't really strung together any real win streaks throughout the season. So I just have no reason to believe that they're going to do it now.
So I was realizing there's so many similarities that we just mentioned with the Lightning Sun, with Big South here. So first off, similarity is out of the entire conference, there's only two teams that have a winning record, same as the previous
Yep.
one. Also, both number one seeds lost their last game of the season, with Radford losing last night to Gardner Webb. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so, with those two similarities, I guess a question for both conferences: is there anything noteworthy in a conference where only two teams? Granted, it's a small conference; it's only got 8 to 10 teams in it. But is there anything to where only two teams have a winning record? So maybe they've been playing trash the entire season. So when they no matter what seed they are, whether it's a 16 all the way up to I don't know maybe a 12 at best, um, is there anything with the just I know it's a lower level of play because of the conference and everything not being, it's not the ACC, but when the
Sure.
conference sucks is bad to the point where there's only two teams actually have a winning record, is there anything to take away from that?
Um, I guess it depends who it is. I mean, Gardner Webb, if they win this, they were there last year. They've been there before. I think they were a 16 seed last year. So don't expect much out of them, but they've been there before. They're not a terrible team. They've won 6 of the last 7 games to finish the season here. So there's some decent teams. The top 3 teams, Winthrop, Radford, Gardner Webb, are all pretty solid teams. But this is definitely a down year, as I mentioned, for the Big South. I mean, last year they were ranked, the conference, Big South Conference, was rated 19 by Ken Pom out of the 32 conferences. This year they're ranked 30th. So the only conferences that are worse this year, rated by Ken Pom than the Big South, is the SWAC and the MEAC. Which, I mean, SWAC and MEAC are like pay for play conferences. They're the worst of the worst. SWAC and MEAC are going to be 16 seeds, probably the play-in 16 seed game. Um, they're just pretty much every year perennially the worst conferences. But Big South this year, they're kind of lumped in that group, which is pretty rough. There's some teams that just dropped off. Campbell, they've been good in the past years. They're just really bad this year. They lost some of their best scorers they've ever had at the program, and now they're just not rebounding well. High Point, they've had just a terrible year. That's Tubby Smith. Yeah, Tubby Smith is coaching High Point down in North Carolina. They're terrible this year. They've getting blown out all year long. I've made some money betting against High Point, especially early on in the season. So teams like that are just really dragging down this conference. But like I said, the best team doesn't always win this conference, and in this year where it's kind of a shit show, I mean, anything could happen. So.
So before we move on to Horizon, I don't believe you mentioned it yet, but who would be your dark horse candidate that has a chance of upsetting this bracket?
Uh, I mean, there's kind of different tiers in this conference. There's the top 3 that all get the bye, and then it's everyone else kind of lumped into a mid tier with Longwood, UNC Asheville, Hampton, even Charleston Southern. Charlie Southern was hot back in the beginning of like January. They had a few upsets, but they finished off the season with 4 straight losses. So I have no faith in them. I just don't have faith in these teams rattling off 4 wins in a row. They haven't had more than 2 wins in a row all season. Um, I guess if I had to pick one, Longwood depends what their odds are, but if they're a long shot, um, they're not. They're just not a very good team, but
Yeah.
they'd be one I'd have my eye on. So Gardner Webb and Longwood are the two I'd be interested in.
All right, so let's move things on to the Horizon League, which I just looked at the bracket. This is the dumbest bracket setup ever. You get blessed with having a perfect bracket number, which of course is either 4, 8, 16, etc., where just, it boils down perfectly. They have 8 teams in this bracket, yet they have two different rounds of buys to get to, like, so Wright State, number one overall seed, literally has to wait what, 72 hours before they're able to play their first game because they just have like a double bye thing going on here. This is like the dumbest bracket. Um, but yeah, so go ahead. Let's talk about your overall favorite. Wright State is pretty powerful with a 25-6 record. This conference, opposed to the other ones we just talked to, there's actually 4 teams in this one that have an overall winning record. But go ahead and give us the Horizon breakdown.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the Horizon League. I've actually gone to the Horizon League conference tournaments the past 4 years, which they've been marketing as Motor City Madness. So I'm a Detroit native. The games have been played in Detroit past 4 years. It was originally at Joe Louis Arena where the Red Wings played. That closed. They moved over to Little Caesars Arena where Detroit Red Wings and Detroit Pistons play. It's been a lot of fun. There's 2 local teams here. There's Oakland University and Detroit Mercy. So it was a nice spot to have the Horizon League tournament. They moved it this year. So I think the first 2 rounds are at campus sites, and then the semifinals and the finals, as you mentioned, with all the rounds with the buys and whatnot. The semis and the finals are now moved to Indianapolis. I don't really understand why they made the move. I'm a little upset. I'm sure there's not many people that are upset. But me and some buddies have been going to the Horizon League tournament for a few years. We were kind of Northern Kentucky fans. Drew McDonald was their star player. He was one of the best players Northern Kentucky's probably ever had. He was fun to watch, and he led them to 2 conference tournament championships to get them to represent it in NCAA tournament. They won in 17 and 19. But now Drew McDonald's gone. He graduated. He's not playing ball professionally, so that kind of gives you an idea of what the Horizon League competition level is at. But Drew McDonald's gone. Their coach left as well, John Brennan. He went across the river, got the job at Cincinnati when that job opened up. He also brought his 7-foot center, Chris Voigt. So he kind of, there's a lot that's gone from Northern Kentucky. They still hung in there. What are they? Is Northern Kentucky the 2 seed?
Yeah.
So, I mean, they still had a pretty good showing, but compared to the past years, I mean, they won 2 of the last 3 years. I don't expect that this season. It's just too much. New coach, your 2 star players gone. Wright State is a team you mentioned that's really been controlling this conference all season long. I bet Wright State this weekend they're getting 3 points at Northern Kentucky. That was either Friday or Saturday. I think it's Friday night. Wright State won outright. Ended up being a close game, but really they controlled that game for pretty much the whole time. They're my favorite. They're going to be the favorite, odds-on favorite here. They're my favorite to win this. They get the advantage of some buys here in an easier bracket. I think they win this pretty easily. They won it in 2018. Now they're back. I mean, this is their conference. This is their tournament to lose. They got a senior point guard, Cole Gentry. He came up clutch in a few points in that Northern Kentucky game where NKU started to make a comeback, and Cole Gentry is making some threes, knocking down some free throws. Gotta love having a senior point guard in a tournament setting. But they get a lot of points through their front court. They got Loudon Love, who can score on in the paint pretty much and get rebounds. He's not very effective outside of that. But down low, this guy that can just scrap and get the rebounds and put it back. And Bill Wampler. Bill Wampler came up clutch several times that game on the road at NKU on Friday. He's one of the best players in this entire conference. They're going to be my pick. I'm going to put money on Wright State. And I wouldn't be shocked to see them cover or keep a game close in the NCAA tournament if they get the automatic bid.
So
The rest. Go ahead.
Sorry, not to interrupt you there, but something that I found interesting is I was just about to pull up the fact that Wright State has an amazing home record at 14-2, and typically with these mid majors and whatnot, they especially for these first two rounds here, they do the campus sites. Now Wright State being all the way advanced to the semifinals based on this weird crazy bracket system is they don't get to reap the while the 3 through 8 seeds, who or the favored or the lower seed of the or higher seed depending how you look at it of the 3 to 8 seeds are get the benefit of playing at the campus sites. Wright State, who has an amazing 14-2 record, doesn't even get that because, like you just mentioned, it's moved to Indianapolis now. So we're like, well, it's a they get a neutral site reward for being the number one overall seed. So dumb. But let's. What else did you have on horizon before we move on to the Patriot League? Or were you done with that one? Let me see here. Looks like we had.
Yep, there you go.
All right, I can hear you now.
Yeah, so you're mentioning, sorry I cut out for a sec. You were mentioning that, yeah, the top seeds don't even get the advantage of playing at home.
Yeah.
They got to go on the road to Indy, which they haven't even played in Indy the past few years, right?
Right.
So it is kind of strange. We'll see if that has an impact here. Maybe that hurts the favorites. Maybe that hurts Wright State. But we'll see. The other teams just aren't that strong this year. Youngstown State finished with the season with a couple road games in a row, so that may take an effect on them. UIC, Milwaukee, they got some decent defenses, but I guess if I had to pick a dark horse, it would be either UIC or Milwaukee to make some noise. Oakland, they got a good player in Xavier Hill Mays. He's a guy that can just get buckets, but the rest of the team, their three-point shooting is just really tough to watch. I watched Oakland play Michigan State over at Little Caesars Arena in Detroit earlier in December. It was just brick city from three. They just don't clean the glass. I could see them maybe winning a game here, but just not winning the whole tournament. This is not one of Coach Greg Campy's best teams. He's had some good teams over the years. He's had some good players over the years, but this is just not one of their best teams. Greg Campy is an interesting coach. I mean, the guy's been at Oakland forever. As long as I can remember, he's been at Oakland University coaching basketball. He's had to have had plenty of job offers all around the country and some bigger programs to move to, but I guess the guy's just happy in Rochester, Michigan. So he's a lifer. So Oakland will always kind of be around. They'll always make a little bit of noise. But I don't think this is the year for them. The other local team for me here is Detroit Mercy. They're actually not even eligible, so they're not even in the bracket this year. But they have an interesting player, just to make a quick note on them. Antoine Davis, if you haven't heard about him, the guy's got the greenest light ever to shoot from three. His dad, Mike Davis, is the coach of UOD Mercy. Antoine Davis broke Steph Curry's record last year for most threes made by a freshman. The problem is this year he's shooting just as many. He's just not making as many of them. He's just not as efficient. So they're just a team that's been easy to bet against all season long. They also have, speaking of coaches' sons, they also have John Calipari's son, Brad Calipari, who also can shoot threes. But this team, they never really pass the ball. They just kind of play playground basketball, just jack threes. So they've been getting beat up all year, and they're not even eligible this year. So interesting bracket, I guess, to sum it up. NKU and Wright State are your top two teams. I think Wright State is a whole step above Northern Kentucky this year. I'll be betting on them to win this Horizon League conference tournament.
All right, let's move things over to the Patriot League, which is kind of the vice versa. We just mentioned in the with Wright State having an amazing home record, being the number one seed, kind of get that penalty of not even being able to play at home with the move to the semifinals in Indy. However, with the Patriot League, we actually have the opposite of that. We have Colgate with an amazing home record of 13-1, number one seed, but they actually do get to play their first game on their home court there. So this is another conference that has, I think, 4 or 5 teams with winning records. So it's a lot more success dispersed, if that's if that's a correct term to use. But what is your looks of the Patriot League and I'm trying to pull up. I don't have the bracket pulled up here. I just have the first round. It looks like. So I guess my question is, bracket system. Is it home court advantage throughout the entire, or do they move to a certain location for like the semifinals and championship? It's not showing what the bracket looks like right now.
So Patriot League is campus sites all throughout. So Colgate's going to have a major
Oh yeah.
advantage. They're going to be the favorite. They very well may win this. This is a conference where maybe if I were putting in futures, I'd maybe put in futures on Colgate and another team. So either Colgate, they're just the best team. They just hold court at home and they just run through this bracket, or maybe one of these dark horses makes some noise. So that might be a decent strategy here, taking two teams. Colgate won it last year, so they made an appearance in the NCAA tournament. They're by far the best team this year. They get to play all their games at home. They swept BU. They swept American. They have a senior front court that they really run the offense through. So I think they should win this, but depending on prices, I may be interested in a few other teams. Um, BU is up there. They never actually won the Patriot League tournament before. Kind of a young team, so I don't really have a lot of interest in them this year because they're pretty young and they just don't have that history. They may cover a game, but I don't think they're going to be tough enough to win it all. Bucknell is having a down year. I mean, a lot of people have probably heard about Bucknell. They've had, I don't know, past 10 years, they've been a staple in the Patriot League. But they don't have Nana Falund like they had in the past. That was making some noise that gave Michigan State some trouble in the NCAA tournament before. They have not been able to string together many wins in a row. So although they've been, historically one of the leaders of the Patriot League, they're not going to do it this year. I mean, they have what is it? They have 7 outright regular season championships in the past decade, 4 conference tournament championships in the past decade. And I think they're kind of out of it this year. So that kind of opens it up for some fresh teams here. So if it's not Colgate, I'd say it's one of either American, Lafayette, or the surprise team kind of is Loyola, Maryland. They lost 8 in a row in January, but then they rattled off. They went 6-1 for a stretch, and then they lost the last 2. So they have the potential to get hot. They've shown that. They have some young talent that can score. I'd be interested in seeing the price for Loyola, Maryland. They could be like that dark horse that just gets hot at the right time and makes some noise here. Lafayette and American, they're 2 decent teams. I don't know what their prices are going to be, if it's going to be worth it. Lafayette beat Colgate. They beat BU and American, so they're capable of beating the top teams in the
Well, so
conference.
I was gonna actually mention that to talk about the dark horse thing is Lafayette. So
Yeah.
I saw that the Colgate had one home loss, so I went back in the record. I realized that one home loss was Lafayette, and not only did they lose at home to that team, but Lafayette actually sweep them. So of Colgate being a 23-8 record with a 13-1 home record on top of that, there's a team that's I think it's the fifth seed actually swept this powerhouse of this conference there. So I would probably be looking towards them as well. And the fact that you mentioned
So,
that just backs that up.
well, here's the problem with that, though, Travis. So, Lafayette would be a good dark horse. Those are big wins. However, their best player, Justin Jaworski, is out for the season. He got injured
Well,
five,
let's just
5 games
erase my
ago.
last comment.
Yeah, so be careful there. He got injured 5 games ago. They went
Okay.
3-2, but they did lose against American and Loyola down the stretch there. So that kind of takes the steam out of them for
Yeah.
me. Um, I can't really back a team without their best player. So that really takes them out of it for me. Otherwise, I would have been really interested.
And
So
this is
that's
why we
unfortunate for
have
Lafayette.
Dom on the stream with me and not just me rattling off nonsense. Like, oh, hey, look at this team that doesn't have their star player.
Yeah,
Boom.
so beware of Lafayette.
All right.
American. What's your affiliation with American? You were talking about American with
Yeah,
me
yeah.
before.
I'm a UCF alumni. I follow in terms of watching basketball. I don't just watch UCF games. I also watch other American games as well. Just kind of gauge competition. But for some reason, talk about the American, I was like, oh man. Well, I went from last year where I don't have you been to a dance game before? I was gonna
Yes.
mention. Okay, yeah. So I've been to a handful, and UCF getting that at-large bid last year with our Taco Fall BJ Taylor combo.
Oh yeah.
We got put in. I go wherever we're going, I'm going, and we got put in Columbia, South Carolina. I just drove.
Yeah.
I drove. What was it? Six, no, 6 to 9 hours. I forgot what it was. Maybe 6 hours.
Yeah.
Just straight up there, and that was an amazing experience. But except for the whole no call on the hook under the basket to let
Against
Zion.
Duke. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a heartbreaker. But no, that is my affiliation. I follow that conference way more than any of the other ones.
Gotcha. Yeah, that was actually a heartbreaker, man. I had UCF against the spread and straight up against Duke. So I took a money line, and oh, that one still gets me, man. They should have beat Duke, but everything worked out well. I'm a big Spartan fan, and they took down Duke en route to the Final Four. So I still got some enjoyment out of that.
Well, at least one of us did. Are you all good with the Patriot? You ready to move on to the I think the next one we had was Mountain West.
All right, let's talk Mountain West.
Another crazy design bracket. I don't know who thinks of these things, but yeah, there's a lot of buys in this one as well. There are a lot more teams than the ones we've been talking about. This one has looks like yeah, there's 11 teams in here. So I guess being a random odd number, you kind of have to have a weird bracket. But who's your oh, this one of course has San Diego State, which up until what last week was running all the way up to that number one seed. Never made it to number one, but they're undefeated, almost got them there. What is your overall view of San Diego State losing? Do you think that has shaken the team, or do you think that's something they needed to power them through this conference tournament as well as a potential run in the dance?
Yeah, so we can't talk about Mountain West Conference until we talk about San Diego State first, right?
Yeah.
So let's spend a minute. Let's talk about San Diego State. A lot of people may not know about San Diego State. They are a very good team. So let me just say that first and foremost, they're a very good team. They are now 28-1. They were obviously the last undefeated team until last weekend on Saturday when they lost at home to UNLV. They lost by 3, but if you watch that game, UNLV had a pretty commanding lead all the way throughout. So that was a bit of a shock to some people. Other people may have said that kind of they had it coming, right? They were kind of due for a loss. You got to slip up eventually. And Mountain West is no cupcake. They're a lot better than the conferences we've just been talking about now. There's some solid teams there. They're often a multi-bid league. Early in the season, San Diego State, this is where they get their legitimacy on their resume. They have wins against Creighton on a neutral site. They have wins against Iowa on a neutral site. They beat Creighton by 30 or more. They beat Iowa by 10. They have good wins. They beat BYU at BYU. And I'm sure everyone just watched the BYU Gonzaga game last week. They have a crazy home court. And BYU is a team that's been getting better and better. So those are their 3 top wins. They also have wins against Utah on neutral site. So that really boosts their resume. San Diego State is no joke. At 28-1, I think they still have a resume for a 1 seed. It helps that teams that were considered 2 seeds, like Duke, like Maryland, have been taking some losses recently. So that really, I think that stabilizes San Diego State as a 1 seed. Now, the problem is Gonzaga is going to be a 1 seed, and they're going to get to stay out west. Gonzaga is probably going to play their first 2 games in Spokane, like in their hometown. And then their regionals is going to be in LA or in Anaheim, wherever it is on the West Coast. So Gonzaga is going to get that, meaning San Diego State's probably going to have to go across the country and play in Indianapolis or Madison Square Garden in New York. The worst case scenario is people were talking about San Diego State as a 1 seed in the East Regional, and Duke is the 2 seed, and they play at Madison Square Garden, which is like Cameron Indoor number 2. So that'd obviously be a bad matchup for San Diego State. So overall, I think they're still a 1 seed. I don't know that they're going to win this conference tournament, though. Mountain West is another conference where the best team does not always win the conference tournament. You got a team like San Diego State. They have motivation to not screw up and lose this first game because they are fighting for a 1 seed. But with these 2 seeds that we're losing, and maybe San Diego State wins a game, maybe that's still enough for them to get that 1 seed. And the point is they have a spot in the tournament. That much for sure, we know. There's no other team in this conference that is a lock to make the NCAA tournament. Utah State is the team I was interested in. And last night, they just lost on the road to a bad New Mexico team. New Mexico was supposed to be great this season. They totally fell apart. They only won a couple games like this calendar year. They just had some stretches of 4 losses in a row, 5 losses in a row. They just had some issues with the team. Jaquan Lyle was suspended and quit the team, came back to the team. Carlton Bragg was kicked off the team. Carlton Bragg was a 5-star recruit in high school, went to Kansas. Jaquan Lyle went to Ohio State. So they had some top-level talent, and then the team just kind of fell apart. So the fact that Utah State just lost on the road to a New Mexico team that was coming off of 5 straight losses is concerning. But Utah State is a team that they're the best rebounding team in the conference. They did win it this tournament last year behind the leadership of Sam Merrill and Neemias Queta. Both those guys are back this year. If you recall, preseason, there was some noise around Utah State being ranked preseason. They kind of fell off. They had a rocky season, but not a bad season. They won 7 straight. They won 11 of the last 13 before this loss last night. I think they've kind of turned it around after an 0-3 start to the conference schedule. They're 4-1 in neutral games this season with wins against Florida and LSU. Utah State is going to be my bet to win the Mountain West Conference tournament. They're not going to be the favorite. They're going to be an underdog. You're going to get a good price on them. And they're a team that's done it before. They're squarely on the bubble right now. So they need to win this to really secure a
Yeah,
bid
that's
for
what I
the
was
NCAA tournament.
just about to ask you. That is that even before their loss to New Mexico, kind of taking away a not a lock that large, but a lot greater chance of that at large bid.
Yeah.
It's like the backs against the walls thing where if they don't win, then they're not playing. So they have that
Oh, yeah.
extra oomph there. But do you think that if they make it to the championship game and still lose, that there's a way they can squeak in, or do they have to win to go to the dance to get their ticket?
They're just going to be so close. They're going to be so close on the bubble, and they're going to be holding their breath on Selection Sunday. Um, it's just too close to call, and it's going to depend on other bubble teams. It's going to
Yeah,
depend on how Indiana does, how NC State does. A lot of these other bubble teams, they're all going to be kind of watching each other's performance and see how they do. So I think it's enough motivation for Utah State to just say, we got to go out and win this thing. That's the only way we know for sure we're in. Let's go out and do it. We did it last year. We got a lot of the same guys back. We know we're better than we've been playing. Let's go do it. I think you're going to get a good price on them, and they're going to be my bet to win it. You're not going to get a good price on SDSU. That's going to be the public favorite.
yeah,
They're going to be the overwhelming favorite to win this. And like I said, SCSU doesn't need to win it. So maybe some of that motivation factor is a little bit gone. So Utah State will be my bet. The other teams that I would think about would be two others would be UNLV and Nevada. UNLV, they're the home team. So Mountain West, the conference tournament is always in Vegas. It's at the Thomas and Mack Center. It's where UNLV plays their home games. They're the only team, not only in the conference, but in the country that beat the Aztecs this year. They did it on the road in San Diego, which is impressive. They're the best offensive rebounding team in the conference, so a lot of second chance points that'll help in the tournament setting. Um, First year coach from South Dakota State, he won it. He won the Summit League conference tournament several times, so I like that experience. But he doesn't have the Dominator, Mike Dom, if you guys remember on South Dakota State Jackrabbits. He doesn't have Mike Dom on this team, so I don't know that he's going to be, as powerful going out and winning a conference tournament like he's used to in the past. They'd really need to get hot from 3 for me to actually feel good about it. So they're definitely not a safe bet, even though it is the home team and the team that knocked off the giant San Diego State.
yeah. They also are going into the tournament with a 5 game win streak as well with a decent home record. So there's
There's something to that. I mean, ride
hotness.
that steam.
Yeah,
This is the time of the year where you want to look at teams that are hot.
yeah.
That's a great point. Yeah.
All right, so let's move on here to the Northeast Conference. We
Okay.
have, let's see, this is another 8 team bracket, and it looks. I'm trying to check for the location here. So yeah, these are all campus sites.
Campus
Okay,
sites. Yeah.
yeah, just checking that. So the number one overall seed right now, it's well, my bracket's actually not showing the number one overall seed. I was gonna pull it up here in a hot second. But what is your initial breakdown on the Northeast? Um, Hold on, let me see here. I just had it in a second. Oh, this is actually relatively close. There's no standalone powerhouse here. I mean, maybe in your eyes in terms of the players and everything, but just record wise, it's a very collective at the top, if you will. Go ahead and give us your Northeast.
Yeah, I mean, we got 6 teams that are 500 or better in
Yeah,
conference. I mean, Central Connecticut's a pretty awful, probably like top 10, top 15 worst teams in the country.
not as bad as
So
Kennesaw State.
they're not as bad as Kennesaw State. Kennesaw State might be the worst team in the 353 teams in
Out of
Division One.
varsity high school teams.
Yeah. So Central Connecticut is pretty bad. They're 3-15 in conference, but beyond Central Connecticut, I mean Wagner's not good, but the rest of this conference, like you said, they've been kind of beating each other up.
Yeah.
So this one should be kind of wide open. Northeast is kind of bittersweet here. I've made a lot of money on Merrimack this year. It's unfortunate that the NEC's best team, Merrimack, is not eligible for postseason, so they're not in this tournament. So they are the best team, um, but because this is their first year in Division One, they're not eligible for the postseason. So they're not even in this bracket. Even though, I mean, they're a fun team to watch. They're the only team in this conference that plays zone defense. They play pressure defense. They get a ton of turnovers, and then they just play real sloppy on offense. But they were a totally unique team for the NEC. They pretty much dominated this conference all season long. They start off actually last fall getting a win at Northwestern. Now we know Northwestern is not good, but going in on the road to a Big Ten team as like your first year in Division One and getting a win, like that's pretty awesome. So they had a great year. It's just unfortunate. It's a stupid rule that the NCAA has. I think it's the first 4 years as a new team in Division One, you can't play in postseason. So you got teams out west like Cal Baptist had a really good season, but this is their second year in Division One. They can't play in the postseason. So you got Merrimack. Merrimack set the record for most wins by a first-year team in Division One this year, and here they are sitting at home right now. Season's over.
Yeah.
So pretty stupid rule. I don't get.
Yeah.
I
Why
don't
4
understand it. I
years is
don't
like
know what the
insane.
benefit is. It really is. Like I don't even understand 1 year. I mean, if you're good, you're good. Why I don't know. So I don't get it.
Yeah.
That's a little upset there. But I made some money off Merrimack this year. Funny because I wrote some articles on Bet Karma that featured Merrimack, and I had explained who they are. You may not have ever heard of Merrimack, well, because they weren't a Division One team last year. So they're the newest team in Division One this year. So with them out of the equation, I think it kind of boils down to 4 teams. I'd say you got St. Francis, Robert Morris, Sacred Heart, and LIU. LIU is a new name and new logo. They used to be LIU Brooklyn. Now they cut that out. They're just LIU. I think they used to be the Blackbirds. Now they're the Sharks. Um, they're up there, but they don't rebound well. They take a lot of threes, but they actually don't make a ton. So I don't like them here. I won't be putting money on them. Sacred Heart is decent. They might be, an attractive price here in this bracket, but they have a young backcourt, which I don't like. When it comes time for March and conference tournaments and the NCAA tournament, I like teams with senior leadership and senior point guards. Sacred Heart just doesn't have that. Um, they're just not a great shooting team either, so I won't be interested in them. Robert Morris is one that I've bet a few times this season. Would be interesting to see like what their price is. They split with Merrimack. They swept Sacred Heart. So I'd be interested in Robert Morris at an attractive price as a dog here. The favorite's going to be St. Francis, Pennsylvania. Uh, they should win this. They have a senior backcourt, so I like that. They have one of the conference's, actually two of the conference's best players, I would say, in Braxton and Blackman. They have the best offense in the league. They'll just simply outscore everybody here. So depending on what their price is, should get a little bit of positive money here. I would take St. Francis here.
All right. Let's see. So you said St. Francis. You say the lowest you would go would be Robert Morris. You wouldn't go any lower than that in terms of seeds to win.
I mean, anybody can get hot and go on a run, but there's a lot of bad teams in this conference.
Yeah.
So again, you can put your money on some of these teams to get hot, but you're putting your money on some pretty bad teams. So
All right. Well, let's move on to the last conference we'll be detailing here on the stream. And then remember that at noon, so about 30 minutes from now, we're going to be with Dave, NASCAR GOAT Dave, for the NASCAR Live. So make sure to jump back on the same channel you're watching us right now for that. But to wrap things up here, we have the Ohio Valley Conference, an 8-seeded bracket, but this is also one where they did not take advantage of having a great number 8 and decided to do a double bye as well for this one, with the 1 and 2 seeds automatically advancing 2 days ahead. But the Ohio Valley Conference, I'm going to pull it up here in 1 second. This is one where I feel like there's been, with Belmont and Murray State also having great years here as well. This is one that's always had, more often than not, a team that made noise in the dance.
oh yeah.
But you go ahead and give us your 2 cents on the Ohio Valley.
Yeah, I mean, you just mentioned them. Belmont and Murray State. That's the cream of the crop in the Ohio Valley. they've I mean, there's always talk about a two bid conference, right? This is not a automatic single bid conference like some of the other ones we just touched on. This is more of a mid major, not a low major conference.
Yeah.
So in the low majors, I say it's sometimes kind of a shit show, and who knows who get hot at the right time. This is Ohio Valley Conference, man. Like good, like NBA players have come out of Ohio Valley. Somebody named John Morant came from Murray State last year. If you guys watch NBA, you know who he is. He's going to be your NBA Rookie of the Year this year. Last season, Ja was at Murray State. Belmont, both of them were making noise and making a case for at-large bids, not just the automatic bid from winning the conference tournament. But Ja's gone. Belmont lost his coach, Rick Bird. He was a coach at Belmont forever. This is their first year without him. So they got Casey Alexander at he's coaching. He came over from Lipscomb, and Lipscomb has also had some recent success. So he actually came into Belmont year one and has had a great year. Belmont and Murray State right at the top are just running through this conference. They're going to be the two favorites. I think one of them wins this. The other one is Austin P. So Austin P, they're the best rebounding team. They're the third best team in this conference. There's a big drop off beyond Austin P. But Murray State, so here's kind of we were talking about the campus sites. If this was a campus site type of bracket, I'd say Murray State. They are undefeated at home this season. I had a bet on Murray State last night, -4 against Austin P. They held serve at home and they won by double digits. So Murray State is undefeated at home this year, and they have at that building that they're at is one of the best home court records in the entire country. I looked up the other day. It was Rupp Arena was number one with Kentucky. Allen Fieldhouse with Kansas was number two. Breslin Center, where Michigan State plays, was number three in terms of winning percentage in the actual building. And then Murray State's building was number four. Like all the games they play there, they have the fourth best record in the country there. So that would have been awesome. But the Racers are not going to get their home court. They have to play at the Ford Center in Evansville, Indiana. So that really brings Belmont back in the mix, in my opinion. They're still shooting a lot of threes like they did under Rick Bird. They're still hitting a lot of threes, but they're actually scoring a lot in the paint now, which is cool. They got 6'11 sophomore center Nick Mazinski. I always screw that name up. Somebody can tell me how to say that. Maybe by the time he's a senior, I'll figure that out. He's shooting 63% on high volume inside. They split with Murray State and Austin P. So let's check out the odds on these. I'm not sure who the favorite will be, whether it's Belmont or Murray, but they're going to get the most money because of the fact that they're getting buys. They're going to be the teams that are going to win this. It's going to be a one bid league this year because neither Belmont nor Murray State have done enough to make a resume to get at large. So it's, I guess in that case, it's a bit of a down year for OVC. A lot of seniors, a lot of good seniors graduated last year, and then you had some coaching carousel going on. So the other team that was up there last couple of years was Jacksonville State. They fell off a cliff, so they're no longer really involved as a top four team. So I'd say there's a 3-horse race. It's going to come down to the top two, Belmont, Murray State. Do you have the bracket in front of you?
Yeah.
So I think with Belmont, I was just looking at it. With Belmont as the 1 seed, right?
Yeah.
I don't. So they have the easier road. So Murray State's going to have a rematch against Austin P. Belmont's got the easier road. They're just as good as Murray State. I'd say take the team with the easier road. Belmont's going to be there in the title game. Murray State probably will, but Belmont, they're going to be there in the title game. So first-year coach is tough to back a team in their first year under a new coach in a conference tournament, but they're going to be my pick. I'll ride Belmont.
I was going to say that you won't find. I mean, I haven't checked all of the other conferences, both majors and mid majors and everything else, but I don't think you'll find another conference that has 3 teams with a combined 1 home loss. that's like
That's
insane.
incredible.
That's insane. I don't
Yeah,
think I've
that's
ever
incredible.
seen that. So that's nuts. And the fact, and it's like, and this you get that amazing crazy stat, and then with all of the other, with not all, but most of the other conference tournaments we talked about, where they have the home court,
Yep.
campus court stuff, you're like, oh man, that's gonna be so awesome with 3 teams. With oh no, they all play in They all play in one specific location, so it
And
takes
I mean
away that
that's the
auspice.
difference of jumping from like a low major conference up
Yeah.
to a true mid major conference. So they got the neutral court, the neutral site for the tournament. It's unfortunate that they can't take advantage of those home courts, but I truly think whoever the winner in the OVC is, whether it's Belmont or Murray State, maybe AP, but my guess is Belmont or Murray State, they could make some noise in the NCAA tournament. They get in as a 12 seed. We all know 5-12 matchup.
Yep.
That's coin flip. That's a 50-50 pretty much. So watch out. Whoever comes out of the OVC, they're going to be battle tested. They're going to have some good players. They're going to be solid. Watch out for them in the tournament.
Yeah, you were talking about the 12-5 matchups. I've been playing with I think it was like 500 people in this Survivor bracket challenge for like the last
Yeah.
5 or 6 years, and if you pick a 12 or lower seed to win, then that entry automatically gets advanced to like the Sweet 16 round, and it's always targeting those 12-5 matchups. So and then
Yeah.
like I said before, when we first got to the Ohio Valley conferences, this conference and then those two teams have the pedigree and the notoriety that hey, they're going to make some noise, whether it's
Oh, yeah.
12, 13, whatever they get put in. But yeah, so that wraps up the Ohio Valley Conference. We will be doing more streams, more podcasts for the other mid majors, and of course for the big the big boys later this week, if not
Oh, yeah.
maybe Sunday as well next week, depending on the start times of everything. We do have NASCAR Live coming up in 22 minutes, and I want to address the fact that we mentioned earlier. If you just jumped in the middle of this, we are doing a $100,000 grand prize March Madness promo, the same exact one we did last year. Got a lot of positive feedback, brought it back. If you are an active sub to any of our college basketball or MVP packages on Bet Karma or on DFS Karma, March Madness wise, you get a free entry. Join our ESPN Bracket Challenge group. All you have to do is go to our Twitter account. It's the pinned tweet. Our Twitter account is at DFS_Karma. Click that link, automatically get into the ESPN Bracket Challenge, and then you can only get the 100,000 if you are one of our active subscribers at the time of the start of the tournament. And then the last part again, the March Madness package, we have brought that back. This is I think our second or third year doing it now. We have three of our best CBB minds, our college basketball March Madness minds. Dom here, Bales, and then Brian. Brian has been on fire, including last night as well, with his prize picks plays. You're going to get all of their content, all of their bets. And that's not just, we're not just talking about before the tournament starts. This is tournament long. So it's not just, like we're talking about who's going to win this conference tournament and, all that jazz. Every single day you're going to get prize picks plays. You're going to get DraftKings core plays. You're going to get bets. You're going to get the expert brackets to help you win your office pools because I know bragging rights are huge.
They're going to get access to the chat rooms as well, right?
Yeah, you're going to get access to our
So
chat room. So
that's
even if you're not
24/7 access.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So even if it's if you don't see a bet on a particular game, jump in the chat. Say, hey, what do you guys think about this? I'm kind of leaning towards the over or the spread here. Even if it's something like directly given by the experts, well, they're going to chime in and reply either way. So make sure you get that. It's very simple. Just go to dfskarma.com, click on subscriptions, March Madness package, and you also get that entry for free into the $100,000 challenge. So hope you guys enjoy this stream. We will be having more, like I mentioned, later this week, and we'll see what happens. But we'll see you guys here in about 20 minutes. Same channel with NASCAR Live with Detroit NASCAR GOAT Dave. I keep adding more words and syllables onto his title. But thanks for you guys tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone. See ya.
See you.